For me, finding faith has been more of a slow burn rather than one big aha moment. I put that down to two things. I wasn't raised within the church, so for me, attending and having faith wasn't part of my routine growing up. And secondly, as my work as a critical care nurse, I was always trained in my profession that things have to be evidence-based and backed by science to be true, and I just didn't see how religion would fit in with that way of thinking. I have over many years come to realise that faith and science can coexist in my life without conflict. God has shown me many times over He's listening. It's just taken me a while to hear. My teen and young adult years were spent riddled with anxieties and insecurities. I never really knew who I was or where I belonged. This led to years of punishments inflicted upon myself. I never felt good enough, and I used these punishments as a way to combat it. My time at university took me away from my family and everyone that I knew. I studied hard and partied even harder, surrounded by people, but I always felt alone. Shortly after qualifying, I met Gareth and found love. We spent years growing our trust and relationship. He gave me a sense of comfort that I hadn't felt before. He always believed in me and encouraged me to be the best version of myself. We built a home together, and eventually we married. Our thoughts quickly turned to creating our own family, and this is where God really started to show His presence in my life. Sadly, becoming parents wasn't easy for us. The aching and longing for a child was constant. Throughout our IVF treatment, I prayed and prayed, promising I'd do anything if I could just be a mum. And in 2019, we welcomed our first son, Blake. I decided it must have been the science. IVF is evidence-based after all. In 2020, we decided to get Blake baptised. We started attending St John's and we commenced on a baptism course that was suddenly halted due to a new virus that was spreading around the world. During the pandemic, I felt an overwhelming urge that despite I had the one thing that I'd been longing for, that my place was actually back at work with my colleagues, helping with the overwhelming influx of patients needing our expertise. So I ended my maternity leave and took my place in the intensive care unit in the fight against COVID-19. Once again, I found myself praying. This time it was for an end of the suffering I was witnessing. It was for myself and my colleagues to continue to have the strength to keep showing up despite the conditions, and for my family and loved ones to stay safe. 2021 saw the next miracle happen. Our baby boy that we so longed for became suddenly and unexpectedly unwell. His kidneys failed and his blood turned to acid from the toxins, and he was hours away from death. I signed a consent form explaining that he might not survive the procedure he needed to save his life. I laid over his little body, praying, please, please, if you are real, just save my baby. Please don't let him die. And he survived. And then he recovered. And even though the specialists couldn't explain it, I knew what it was. It was all that science and evidence-based practice. We soon felt ready to complete our family. Our treatment was successful again, and that little embryo nestled into my tummy, due to arrive August 2022. This pregnancy was not without complications. He started trying to arrive in the April. I again found myself leaning towards faith. Please, just another few weeks. Please just let him be strong enough to survive. After many more scares, he stayed put for another 13 weeks. We went from discussing resuscitation wishes at 23 weeks to welcoming Oakley into our family at 36 weeks. Chunky, healthy, and absolutely perfect. We became more regular churchgoers and started planning for a double baptism. By this point, I imagined God with his head in his hands, despairing at the woman who was still not fully convinced of his existence. So in 2023, with one more trick up his sleeve, he blessed us with our third child. This time, no science, no excuses, just our miracle son kit. Since then, I faced challenges I never expected. I suffered postnatal depression that nearly cost me my life. The anxieties and insecurities of my younger years started to seep back in. I felt unworthy and convinced that the world would be a better place without me in it. The church played a big part in my recovery. It's given me a sense of belonging and calm I never realised I was yearning for. When I feel weak, it gives me strength. Life isn't always easy, and I'm far from perfect. But I open my heart to Jesus, and I thank him for the blessings in my life.